So I've just cycled about an hour to Canary Wharf, and in listening to this song right now that I'll play, it just reminded me of the depth of the human experience and the different dimensions that we can explore. I'm not talking about 2D, 3D, 4D. I'm talking about all the different experiences that we have and the potentiality of experiences that we can explore. Say, appreciating cold and appreciating heat, going into the sauna and then taking a dip in a cold lake. We can essentially experience a finite amount of heat or cold before it becomes too much. And that leads me to other things. There's a certain spectrum amongst all things that we can explore. Say, the spectrum of sound and hertz and frequencies. There's a certain level of frequencies that we can personally explore, and certain frequencies that we cannot hear or we cannot consciously interpret them as a sound. There might be a way of processing that in our subconscious, but we cannot consciously hear certain sounds. In the same way, we cannot process certain colours that, say, a bee can, because we don't have the spectrum, we don't have the brains or the facilities to be able to understand or interpret these experiences. But then that leads to the question of how many things can we experience and what is in the spectrum of the human experience. That's something that I think a part of me has always been curious to understand. I'm observing some water right now, and even that is a complete unique dimension of experience or consciousness or just life. You know, the amount that something is solid, all the way to how light it is. Water is a certain substance with a certain amount of properties, and so is air, and so is steel. But what differentiates all of these things is how compact the atoms are, and the weight of these atoms, and how they essentially interact with each other in the environment. We can literally explore this in so many ways. I wouldn't say an infinite amount of ways, but there are so many different experiences that we can tap into, and so many things that your imagination can essentially tap into and conceive. You might not be able to experience it as consciously as you would in being awake. Like, say, for example, the imagination, if you are imagining walking on a cloud, your 3D self cannot literally experience walking on a cloud. You can experience a likeness of it, and that's not even just tapping into the actual lucid state of dreaming and the sheer amount of experiences that you can experience in a dream, that when you wake up you don't really have sometimes the right language to even speak about the dreams that you have. But that might be me alongside a lot of other people, but not every single person, because I know that my partner does not have as vivid of an ability to dream. She always says that my dreams are so much more fun than hers. So I guess what I'm trying to point towards is just the diversity of experience that you can tap into by being conscious of these experiences, by being conscious and curious that you can actually experience a variety of different things if you just actually want to understand it, experience it, and be there. You know, there is every sort of texture. There is every sort of butterfly. There's every sort of animal, insect. In each of these subjects, there is a whole world within that subject. For me to say butterfly may point towards the generalized figure of a butterfly, but it doesn't define every single thing that is a butterfly. It doesn't essentially define and describe every single variation of butterfly. It simply points towards the most general form of a butterfly. And that's what language does. It helps you point towards a certain something, and then through understanding more of language, then you can point towards different experiences. So through being able to vocalize a greater amount of experiences, you're able to then share those experiences with other people. It doesn't mean that you can experience more things. It only means that you can share it. Language is almost a gateway, a portal to understanding these things, because if you're in a conversation with someone who is explaining something to you that you have not been able to explain, but you have experienced it, then the light bulb goes off and you go, he's just put words on the subject of the thing that I could not put words on, but I did experience. There are other people that if you try to have that same conversation, they will not be able to do that because they have not experienced the thing that you are trying to communicate to them. Because they literally have not got the experience. And language allows the unraveling of understanding of these experiences. Even if you have not experienced that thing, language can prepare you for that thing. If you actually absorb it, if you are curious enough to understand the thing that the person is trying to communicate to you, and especially if that person is communicating to you with intention as well. Say if you are depressed, for an example, is there enough observation of the beauty of life? Or perhaps some people get depressed because there is too much of an observation of a certain thing, and that certain thing makes them feel quite bad because that certain thing carries quite negative connotations and almost depressive symptoms because of the fact that they have observed something that is quite negative. But then that doesn't mean that the world is inherently negative. That just means that the person has observed a negative side, or even has speculated that that thing is only negative, or is overly concentrating on the negative polarity of that thing. But every single thing has a positive and a negative charge. That is simply physics, and you can apply that in an emotional context as well. Every single situation has a positive and negative consequence to it as well. It has a positive and a negative charge. But if you think of both things, of everything having a positive and a negative charge, then you could also see the singularity of each and every single experience and how everything is actually connected, because everything is happening as if it's like a domino effect, ongoing basically forever in our way of understanding time. But if you really tap it to experience, then you can experience so much. And if you let go of what you define as a positive experience, you tap into a plethora of deeper experiences where it's neither good nor bad, but the essence of experiencing that is the essence itself, and that is the wisdom that you gain through experiencing that. It doesn't make you wiser, it doesn't make you this, more, that. It just allows you to become more experienced. And with that experience, you're able to translate that experience into words. And that leads me back to my other point. You can almost become a guide for other people through the planes of existence because you have the verbal communication to be able to do that. So even though I can speak about the depth of experience, others might not understand that as much because they have not experienced it themselves, or they've only experienced it to the level that they have. And that is completely subjective to them, and that's completely individual to them. And you can never really control that, which is, again, okay. You don't need to control experience. You just allow experience to happen and be a humble guide to it. So far I've essentially covered two main points, and that is the depth of human experience, and also language being a gateway to explaining these things. Both are somewhat dual in nature, but completely complement each other. Essentially, what I'm trying to communicate is the fact that there is so much to explore in the human experience, and learning to communicate that just allows you to share those experiences, although not every single person will comprehend. But with the people who do comprehend, then you're in for a very good conversation, and it allows you to resonate with other people. I guess there's also a reason why as to I do this, and why I'm going to begin to release these thought streams, because I think that there are a lot more people who understand what I'm talking about than I let on, because I speak about these sorts of concepts with people around me and they don't really understand what it is that I'm trying to communicate, because they don't have the experience that I'm trying to share, and they also do not have the curiosity to understand the thing that I'm trying to communicate. Which is fine. I don't need people to understand it, because I understand it. There's things about my consciousness that I don't understand to this point. Like, why are my dreams so vivid and bizarre? But I'm going to end this here, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. So if I was to just wrap up what I've just said, the complete human experience is utterly diverse, and language is a gateway to explaining these things. And I hope that you guys have appreciated this video. If you found it randomly, you're probably one of the first people to find this channel. Leave a comment if anything resonates, if you want me to talk about anything at all. Catch you on the next one.